Hi everyone, welcome to week 13, our final week of the course. This is a bit of a lighter week to allow time for you to put the finishing touches on your final assignments and to participate in a virtual collaboratory writing workshop. So some reminders: submit a link to your digital portfolio by December 2nd. And just a note with regard to this assignment, I'm taking out the last piece of the digital portfolio assignment where in the course outline it says that during the last week of class, you'll review others' portfolios and create a response, and that this response will be included in your completed portfolio. You are no longer required to write this response, though you of course are invited to review others' portfolios. You're not required to write a response and include it in your digital portfolio, but rather, if you like, you can discuss and share your ideas within your virtual collaboratory group. I feel that you've been doing a lot of collaborating about the digital portfolios through your virtual collaboratories already and through the weekly Moodle forums. So I think another reflection at this point isn't necessary given your busy workloads as you approach the end of the semester. So rather, you can spend this time working together collectively to edit and think through your final papers. And also lastly, a reminder to submit your self-reflection at the latest by December 9th. So in this week's chapter by Van Manen, he speaks about maintaining a relation between research, writing, and pedagogy. And I think that this chapter really sums up a key essence of this course. An essential aspect of our course has been creating an intimate link between research and pedagogy. So consider how your research inquiries orient you in a pedagogic way. What resulting questions might you have in your work with children, and what are the implications for how we act with children as you take on this role as the teacher or researcher? So in this week's chapter, Van Manen writes on page 151 that to say that our text needs to be oriented in a pedagogic way is to require of our orientation to research and writing an awareness of the relation between content and form, speaking and acting, text and textuality. To be oriented as researchers or theorists means that we do not separate theory from life, the public from the private. We're not simply being pedagogues here and researchers there. We are researchers oriented to the world in a pedagogic way. And I think this is a real important quote to think with as you begin writing and editing in your final papers. So in this week's writing workshop, email a working draft of your paper to your group members. You should arrive to your virtual collaboratory with this rough draft and have a copy of everybody's work. If your papers are still very rough, that's absolutely fine. This could also be an opportunity to discuss your emerging ideas. And if you don't already have one, begin to discuss and create a possible thesis statement that may help to frame your paper. So a thesis statement is usually the last sentence of your intro paragraph that outlines exactly what you'll be discussing in the paper. And your paper will follow the outline that's set forth in this thesis statement. So a few things to think about as you put together your final paper is thinking about how you're finding your way into the topic in a meaningful, sensitive, and insightful way. So this paper is intended to be critical and personal, and engagement with your topic. So you can draw on personal experiences, and you can use the word you can use the perspective from I, as long as you don't fall too far into a purely self-reflective piece. This still is a formal paper, but your positionality is inherently I, so I'm okay with using the word I. It should be critically reflexive, and there should be sort of a sense of a struggle and a difficulty in how you're finding your way through phenomenological inquiry and the role as the teacher and researcher. It's not something that's given or necessarily easy to take up. So I think you should make visible how you're grappling with some of the concepts. You should provide a clear intro with a well-articulated thesis statement, as I said before. And your paper should provide a strong synthesis of ideas that draws out central concerns and creates a fluid and articulate discussion. So some suggestions for your writing is to really review the notes from the readings, notes from the weekly PowerPoint videos and your virtual collaboratories and your digital portfolios as well. And also pay attention to terminology and definitions. This can really make for a strong paper if you're paying attention to some of the terminology that's come about in the course texts. So make an effort to understand the words that you encounter and demonstrate how you're understanding them in your paper. This will give you a bit of nuance in your writing. So also in your writing workshop, as you're looking at other people's work, ask the questions, is the thesis statement of this paper clearly identifiable? Does the paper support the thesis statement or key focus? Are there areas in the paper that are hard to understand? Sometimes if you're reading and something doesn't quite make sense, that's indicative of possibly an error in sentence structure or perhaps an idea that doesn't quite fit with the flow of the paper. And sometimes having another set of eyes look over and read helps make visible those little things that can be fixed. Are there areas in the paper that are hard to understand? Again, does the paper follow APA formatting and referencing? Are there improper sentences, grammar issues, or repetitive words? And lastly, what areas of the paper are inspiring, curious, and provocative? So these are some questions that you can think with as a group in your virtual collaboratory this week. So in this paper, consider how you might weave together phenomenological inquiry and the role of the teacher researcher. And again, you can weave in your portfolio entry 10 into this paper. Also, just lastly, a final note is that unfortunately I can't offer extensions after December 9th, as I would like to give myself enough time to give you a good amount of feedback on your papers and your digital portfolios. But if you would like support or if you'd like to bounce some ideas around with regard to these final assignments, please do reach out, preferably sooner rather than later, so that we can have some space to chat and I can help you prepare. So yeah, I think that's it for this week, everybody. I'm really looking forward to reading your final papers and looking over your digital portfolios. So yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great week.